Hello, hello. It's Heartland Journals here. I can say that now since I've done one whole YouTube video. This is my second one. So in the last video, I had shown you the Hortensia paper pack and lots of the goodies that I've gotten. I've been collecting some, chipboard things and stickers and the smaller paper pad that they have and those kind of things. So I was sharing some of that with you, and we left off, and I had been looking at the paper I was going to put in the journal, and I had come up actually with quite a bit of colored paper and such that would coordinate with the Stamperia Hortensia paper pack. And then I started putting it together, and I decided that I wasn't quite happy with it. And sometimes when I do a little project, a crafting project, I'm trying to hurry, and just get it done as quickly as I can. It's like, getting to the finish line and getting the project done is the thing that I'm, just trying to rush towards to get it taken care of as quickly as I can. And I really want to, with this project, to just kind of relax and enjoy the process, the creativity of it. And, I certainly enjoy looking at a finished project and seeing, what I've accomplished. But I really want to enjoy the process with this. And I think that the most beautiful journals and art projects are the ones where people have taken their time and given thought to each of the components, so that then that end finished product is just even better, because they've really taken their time and given attention to the details and those kind of things. So I don't know that that's going to mean that what I'm going to create is going to look fabulous, but I want to, in this year, really, it's kind of slowing down and enjoying the process, enjoying the moment. So it's more than just crafting. It's just the way that I'm thinking about things. I'm trying to improve that a little bit as well. So let me show you what I have ended up with. I was considering obviously the pages of the journal, because that's the project that I'm doing, is creating a journal. And so I was looking at what pages I would put in the journal. And then I was also thinking about a cover for the journal. And one of the things that I remembered is that a year or more ago, I made a bunch of they call it mass making, which means you have a recipe for a particular item, and you kind of do it like a production line. You make a lot of them. And so Gayle Agostanelli, who is one of my favorites on YouTube, and I will put a link to this in the video. I'll follow up and update it. So she has a video where she takes, and you can actually, I have one here I wanted to show you. She takes a 9x12 envelope, and she turns this 9x12 envelope into a journal cover. And that's what this is. And you can even see, this would happen to be a white envelope, but you can see the envelope here, and basically it's taking and cutting it down to the right size that you're going to need to cover a regular size journal, a 9x6 size journal, 9 inches by 6 inches, and covering it with some type of paper, and doing that with liquid glue, and that's Mod Podge or something similar, and taking some type of decorative paper. It could be anything, gift wrap, tissue paper. This was just some kind of specialty paper that I had used, and so you kind of layer that on. And so this is intended to be the outside of the journal, and this is the inside. And I didn't even cover the inside. I could put a piece of paper or something in here, but I didn't want to do that until I knew what journal it would be used for, so that I could choose something that would coordinate. And so that's something that I might do. But I was looking at this, and I was actually looking at this particular one. So I made a bunch of these. I probably have 10 because I mass made them just like Gayle did. And this one is tissue paper. So you can see where I overlap tissue paper. This was just purple tissue paper like you would put in a gift. And you use the Mod Podge and put layers, and that's what it looks like. And then on the outside, this was just some scrapbooking paper that I really liked. And so I put that on the outside and just left it all purple on the inside. And so this is, not to say this is all I'm going to do to the cover. This is kind of the starting point. But what I liked about it is I thought that the colors that were in this one would really coordinate well with the Hortensia paper pack. And so I started kind of playing around a little bit with this and you know, looking at some of the chipboard pieces and trying to think about what would I do. And you know, I even picked up some texture paste. This is distress texture paste that you can do and put on things, and it, you know, it gives it texture. You can feel it. You can use stencils and use that, and it would, you know, put a raised impression, a raised image or design on the top. I didn't do that. This is just, you know, the Mod Podge over the scrapbooking paper. I haven't done anything to it yet. But again, I was just kind of weighing out what are the possibilities. What may I want to do with this? I even got out some different paints that I have that I thought would coordinate. Not sure if I wanted to do a little painting. Just trying to think through some things, and also looking at the papers that I had picked out. And so I originally was intending to put in 3 signatures. And signatures, and I'll show you on a book that I previously made. This is my very first book that I made. I made this about a year ago. And so you can see that, and I'll get to the signatures in just a second. But you can see that this is a nice heavy-duty book. This is made from cardboard. There was nothing. I made it completely all from scratch from cardboard. And this I will come back and put a link to the video that I watched that helped me to do this. It's the paper Outpost, but I'll make sure that I note that. And even this little raised area on the spine, and this is just some fabric that I had that I really, really liked, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And I thought, well, I really like that. I'll put the balloon here. There's a balloon here. Adventure. This is raised. So this is what I was talking about with the texture paste, that you can use a stencil, which is what I did here. And then after it all dried, I went back with paint and painted in some of those areas that were raised. But it's kind of interesting. It just adds a little design element. But what I was trying to show you are the signatures. So in this book, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signatures. So the signatures are the sections. And I've actually used this journal. So I'm not going to show you what I wrote in my journal, but there are 5 different sections. And those are sewn in to the spine. And this is called a hidden spine because you can't see anywhere where I've sewn it in. So that's what a signature is. So for the Hortensia journal, I had decided I would do 3 signatures. And I got papers together to do 3 signatures. And then I think I had 10 or 12 pages in each one of them. And I realized quickly as I looked at the stack of the papers that that was not going to work well for this style of journal cover. If I wanted to do multiple signatures, I would need to go back and build the book from scratch like the one I just showed you. I'm not really interested in doing that right now. And so what I decided, this is kind of, making things up as we go, I decided I'm going to do more than one Hortensia journal. So I'm going to stick with this size. I'm just going to put 1 signature in it, but I'm adding the number of pages. And I think I'm at 18 or 20 pages. And that's 18 or 20 sheets that are then folded in half, and you have front and back. So it's a lot, there's a lot of space to decorate and journal and that kind of thing. So it's not that it's going to be a small journal. It's actually going to be a very good size. And actually, I sometimes feel like the larger one I showed you with the 5 signatures, sometimes that's a little unwieldy when I'm actually trying to use it and write in it. And so I am planning to keep one of the Hortensias. And so I want it to be a good size for me to actually journal in. I'm a big fan of journaling. And at different times in my life, I've found journaling to just be such a wonderful thing to process things from the day and things from my life and things from relationships. And so a beautiful journal is a great place to start. So at any rate, let me set that aside for just a moment and show you that I've spent some time today going through and creating 3 identical signatures. I'm going to make 3 Hortensia journals. And so these I've put together. They all have basically the same papers. And I have put them in the order that I want them in. And I've learned a lot of this from watching Gayle Agostanelli and the way that she puts her papers together, and many other folks on YouTube. And so I'm going to show you what I've done. And this is different than what you saw where I left off in the last video. What I have done is I had purchased a couple of digitals on Etsy. I mentioned those last night. That's where you can go on Etsy. And, if you're working on a journal with roses, then you would maybe search for a digital that's got roses in it. Or if you're doing one for a farmhouse, farm style, then you might search for a digital that has that. And then you can often find things that have the images that you think are great and cool for your journal, or the color scheme. And so I had purchased, I guess a few days ago, some digitals that had the hydrangeas on them. And so I decided to go back and look at those and see if I could incorporate those into the papers that I have for the pages of the journal. And so I did that, and I can tell you where most of them came from in case you're wanting to make a Hortensia journal. You can look up those. I think they're going to coordinate just very, very nicely. And so this is one. And so this was a digital file that I printed on my color printer. I have, just to let you know, I have an Epson ET2720. That's an Epson ET-2720. It's one of those ones that, I'm sorry, I'm holding that upside down. It's one of those ones that does a really nice job as far as the cost of the color cartridges. It's the one that has the tank, and I'm very, very pleased with it. It's worked really well. I've only had it for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months, and I'm real pleased with how it does with the digital. So I printed that out, and then so I printed it on one side, then I turned it over and ran it back through again and printed one of the other digital pages on the back. So now I have a 2-sided beautiful print of hydrangeas. And I mean, the colors, I'm going to pull up the Hortensia and kind of put that up against it, and you can just see how nicely it coordinates. So again, you don't want things necessarily that are going to match exactly, but you want things that coordinate. And I'm very, very pleased with this. I almost feel like whoever designed this made it to go with this paper pack, which is very possible. So this one, I want to give credit, and I will try to put this in the notes. This one is from Junk Journal Treasures on Etsy. Junk Journal Treasures, and the digital is called Hydrangea and Butterflies. So you've got the hydrangeas and a butterfly, and you'll see that I want to say there are over 10 digitals. So there's lots of different ones, and so you can pick which one you really like. And so I've looked at those that I thought would be best in this paper, in the pages of the journal. So that's one of them. And then these are things I showed you last night. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those. Just colored dyed paper. This is another digital. This is not from the same place as the last one. This is another one, and unfortunately, I'm not even sure where this one came from. I've had this digital. I looked back in. You can keep those files. When you purchase a digital, you download that file onto your computer. You can set up a folder that says, these are my digitals that I've purchased. And then you have that file. You can go back and print it again. So it's not like you have to pay for each time that you print it. You pay one time, and then you have that file, and you can print it as many times as you want. So if you found the perfect journal that you just always want the same one, then you put that together and you always be able to create a new one. I do want to point out that many of these designers, this is their creative work that they've created and put together, and it is time consuming to create and post and those types of things. So please make sure that you do read whatever restrictions they may have on the use of their digital files. But many, many, many of them recognize that people are going to print them out, create a journal, decorate it, and potentially even come back and sell that handmade journal on Etsy. But just read through and make sure that the one you're looking at, that if that's what you're intending to do, just make sure it matches the use that you're planning for the journal. Most of the time, if it's just for yourself, they're not going to put any restrictions at all. This is another one, and this is actually a different digital pack, and this one came from, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but it's Frou Craft. It's Frou Craft. Frou Craft, and it's called Watercolor Paper Pack Hydrangea Scrapbook. So I really loved it because it's got the hydrangeas, and then it's got some script writing here. And then on the other side, it's kind of a, close-up of some hydrangea blooms. And it's really incorporating all the various colors that you can see in the plants that we often see in the spring and summer for the hydrangeas. So go ahead and go there. This is another one, a little different. There's more writing and smaller blossoms. Oh, and I love this. So this is, the designer took the colors and made it into kind of a scroll. So I really, really liked that one. I'm only showing you the things that are different from last night, the last video. This is another one of the hydrangea and butterflies. And this one has some music on it, which is kind of cool. This is another of the Frou crafts, and kind of the design of the white stripes in with the hydrangeas in the background. I really like that one too. And more of the scripting. And this might be my favorite. And this is from the hydrangea and butterflies. And this I just love. It's simple, but it's lovely, and that's going to be the first page in the journal. And then I really love the coloring here. This really matches that purple in the Hortensia, that pinky mauve purple. And so I'm really happy with that. And so, again, I have gone through now. I have created 3 of these. And I am going to put the doily in the center. I just think that that's really pretty to do that in that center when you open it up. So that's what the paper is going to look like in the journal. And I'll be binding it very soon, but I want to do something to the cover before I do that. So I'm gonna set this aside for now. And I want to show you what I'm looking to do with the cover. So, like I said, it was kind of a journey in that I was first going to do 3 signatures, realizing this cover wouldn't work, switched over. Now I'm just doing one signature, but a larger one. And actually, let me count those pages because I do want to tell you how many pages. So just to confirm, it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So there are 18 pages and then the doily. I think that's great. One thing I failed to mention, I just want to point this out really quickly, is that when you print a digital, and this, I was confused about this when I first started watching the videos and seeing people do this, and I didn't really understand. When you print a digital, and I'm pulling one, this is one that came just off the printer. I haven't done anything to it. I haven't folded it or done anything. And you notice this white edge around it here? Well, that's just how the printer prints it. It's going to automatically put that little edge on it. And we don't like that. You know, most people don't want to have that white edge on their journal pages when they put it together. So you'll often see people taking a ruler. You can use, you know, if you've got a ruler around, you know, a metal ruler, a wooden ruler, those will work. Or you can get something, a ruler that's really made for it. It's called, this is a tear guide. And basically what people will often do is they will take this edge, and it's gonna, you see it's kind of rough, it's not a straight edge, and they're gonna put it down across that little white edge and hold it tight with your left hand. See, I'm holding it and pushing on this, and then I'm gonna lift this up and it tears. And it tears it, and I'm not very good at it. You can see that right there. Like, I held it really well at the top, but I didn't hold it strongly enough at the bottom, so it didn't tear evenly. And so one of the things, if you don't want that white edge, how are you going to get that off? Well, you can practice this and get really good at it. And I will say that if you put more under the ruler for where you're tearing it, it's going to be easier. So I just cut that piece off, and that was pretty easy. But if you're just trying to cut that little edge off, I find it really hard to do that. I'm not skilled enough to do it. So I have a different method, and my method is I have a paper cutter. And there are all kinds of paper cutters out there, and I have several different ones that I've collected at thrift stores and, you know, that kind of thing. So I have a lot of different ones. This one is one that you feed the paper in, you line it up where you want it, and then you pull this down to cut it. So what I did with all of those digitals that I showed you in the paper pack is I put them in to the paper cutter. I line up where it's going to slide down to cut that edge off. I'm pushing my paper up against this edge right here so that it keeps it straight, and I'm looking at it to see if that little white section that I want to cut off is lined up properly. And I'm going to hold this, and then I'm going to grab this. This is where the blade is, and I'm just pushing, and it's going right down the line, and it just trimmed that little piece. And you notice that only a little bit of the colored part is there because I don't want to cut a lot of my design off, but I want to get rid of that white edge. And so then I have a nice paper that the white edge is gone. And now because I have this kind of, this came from a thrift store, but it's kind of fancy design on how it cut. So it's jagged as if I tore it, but I didn't tear it. This is the one that I used that ruler to tear. So it's just trying different things and seeing what works well for you. But the point is, I wanted to get that white edge off. So I just wanted to let you know, if you get digitals and you're seeing that happen, then you may want to tear those off with the ruler, or look at a paper cutter that you can use to remove that. All right, so back to our cover. And again, I just kind of looked at this and played around a little bit with some different things and thought, you know, what do I want to do? And I think I dropped, I want to show you here. So let me see if I can find that real quick. Yeah. Okay. So I think I mentioned how much I think this lady's super cool. I want to try to find a way to use her on the cover. And so I was looking through things. I showed you this last night. This is the rice paper. I was trying to figure out how I could use that. And I have a little container where I keep things that I've collected, like pieces of cardboard to make the book covers, and some different things that I've collected over the last couple of years for binding. So binding things, I have thread that I use for the binding. I have some other things. So I wanted to show those to you. One of them is these corners that you can put on at the end to protect the edge and the corner of your journal, since you'll be using it when you're opening and closing, that you can put those on to protect it. And those I think I will use when the time comes. The other thing is I pulled out some cardboard. This is just from a package I received, and I just ripped it out, and I liked that it had some white on it. And I thought I might use, I'm not going to use this whole piece, but I might use a piece of it. So I was like just really literally playing with this and just kind of tearing it off to see. I like the corrugated underneath, kind of a neat look, and there's lots of things you can do with this. They call it, if you were going to put it on, you know, on the cover of your journal, you might cut just a little square of this out and decorate it and put it in the center. And so that, I pulled that out, and I was kind of looking at that and wondering if I wanted to do something with that. And then I came across these. I had actually forgotten that I had these. These are Tim Holtz frames. And so it's a bundle of frames, and you can use them in scrapbooking or junk journals or all different kinds of mixed media projects and things. So I pulled these out and started looking at them. And I thought, wow, that color, some of that green would be a nice contrast with all of the purples and blues and that kind of thing. So I started playing around with those and looking at this chipboard lady that I was trying to figure out a way to use on the cover. And what I came up with, and this is what I'm planning to do, but is that I want to start with this. I'm going to use some Mod Podge, the liquid glue. I'm going to glue the rice paper on. I'm just kind of showing you where I was going with it. So then that would kind of be the cover once I get that glued on. And then I thought, well, okay, then what I want to do, because I want to use the lady. So then I started looking at these frames, and I thought, well, maybe I could put a frame on. And I started looking at it and thought, yeah, I kind of like the way that's looking. And then I liked that you could see that rice paper behind it with the design. Then I thought that this frame is so large that her head wouldn't really have a good place to rest, and I might, you know, have a tendency to hit it or something. So I thought, let me try one that's a little smaller. So I tried this one. And I don't like that one as much because there's a hole there, but you're almost covering it up with the chipboard piece, and I just didn't think that looked as good. And then I tried this one. And actually, let me flip that, the larger at the bottom. And tried that one. That one's not bad. So it's a lighter color. But if you notice on this one, I could glue her edge there and there to help a little bit. It would still not be connected at the top, so there would still be a chance of it getting caught on something, but this one could work. So then, and this is the one that I've landed on for now. I could change my mind, of course, but I came up with this one, and I like the contrast of the darker green. And this one, the shape of it, I would be able to have her connected here, here, and here. And so I really like that one. And then, you know, I may do something else to it as well, put some other elements on the page, but I'm just trying to kind of get the general concept of where I'm headed. And so that's what I'm looking at. Although I have to say that just now, kind of playing with this and putting this one, I'm kind of liking that one too. So I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm headed with the design. And I thought what I would do, really the last thing, is that I'm going to put the rice paper on this, and then I'll let it dry before we move forward to do anything else. So just trying to open the packaging here, get the rice paper out. It's super, super thin. And I showed this to you in the last video, but you might be able to see a little more. See all the different kind of striations of the rice and the way that it was made. It's very, very neat. And what I'm going to do here is I'm not doing it yet. I'm just kind of telling you. I'm going to be lining it up. I really like that the word hydrangea is up here in the upper corner. And so I think that I just really like that. And I like this dragonfly. I just really love this paper. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer of glue down, and then I'm going to put this on top and smooth it and put another layer of glue down and let that dry. After it dries, then I'm going to decide what I'm going to do here. I probably am just going to cut this off and cover the inside with something else, but I'm not going to try to cut it first before I put it on. I'm going to go ahead and glue it on first and then make that determination. So let's go ahead and put some glue on. I've got some Mod Podge here. This is a trick Gayle does. She puts that on there to try to keep it from drying out. It's just some plastic. This is a little bit watered down, not a lot, but a little bit. And I've got a mat down. This is a silicone mat, so I'm protecting my desk. And so I also have, these are silicone brushes. So it's not bristles, it's silicone, so it's easier to clean. So I'm just kind of getting some out here, and I'm going to run it right up to the edge, and I'm just really putting a good layer of glue. So that's what you really want to do. Now the glue is getting on my silicone mat, but it's not going to hurt anything. I'll just clean it off later. You know, I won't say that I'm the neatest crafter. I kind of get the job done and then worry about cleaning things up, but I do have a mat and I try to do that. So, all right, so here we go with the Mod Podge. I've spread it out. I'm going to get a little bit more for this bottom part, really trying to get it everywhere. All right, and then we'll come kind of to the moment of truth of trying to lay this rice paper down. I'm not sure how this is going to do. I haven't done this before, so we shall see. So I am doing my best to line that up. I know you can't see it completely well here, so I am kind of pressing that down just a little bit, and then I want to smooth it out. And as I'm smoothing it out, I see I'm actually not at the edge, so I'm going to pull that off. And Let's try that again. Might actually have it go up past it just a little bit so that I'll trim it if I need to. I'd rather do that than not have it all the way to the edge. All right, so now I'm going to come back and just kind of spread that, flatten it out a little bit. I'm just trying to make sure that all the edges are getting at least in place, okay? That's what I'm trying to do here, is while that glue underneath is wet, I'm just trying to get it to kind of attach. All right. Now I'm going to get more glue, more of Mod Podge, and I am putting a nice thick layer on top. So I know I'm wasting a lot of that. Let me see if I can get that back up here. And this is a matte, so it's not going to be shiny. And it's weird, you know, I had not used Mod Podge. I know a lot of kids use Mod Podge for different things they're doing in school, but I had never used it, so it was really a new thing for me, and has been a lot of fun, a lot of things to kind of explore. But putting this down, so it's going to look strange when it's wet, but it will dry, and it'll be transparent. So whatever's under it, you'll be able to see. Now, if I make marks, like the edge of the paintbrush is putting marks in the Mod Podge, those will show. The brush strokes will show. So just be aware of that. It's not going to be this super smooth edge. It's gonna have marks in it based on how you did your brushing. So just from an awareness perspective, but you can do some kind of neat things. You can kind of put little waves in it, or curves, or what have you, and kind of play around with that a bit. So I think I've got enough on there. I've probably got too much, but it's not something you want it to come off. So I'm just kind of going through and making some little designs, and I'll just kind of come back and do a few little waves. And it's basically, it looks like, you know, glue, like Elmer's glue that you might have been used to as a kid. So there's a little edge left here. I think I'm going to go ahead and finish that off and attach it. So I had not put Mod Podge underneath there, so I'm doing that. And I'll come all the way down that piece there, right up underneath to the edge, because you really want to make sure that you have the Mod Podge under that paper. It needs to be under it and on top, not one or the other. It won't stay down if you don't do that. And you need it to be pretty saturated. So now I'm going to kind of pull that and put the Mod Podge on top. And we are just about done. And I'm going to finish this out real quick. And we are just about done. And we've got our Mod Podge here. And put my little design in that, kind of match the front, come back down through the binding. And so that is it for now. We will let this dry, and I will see you in the next video.